In the heart of a city that never slows, beneath gray skies and a wind that cuts like regret, a man in a tailored black coat pauses at a crowded street corner. On the sidewalk sits a woman, hair tangled, clothes threadbare, with two little girls curled into her side. Their faces whisper a story the world rushes past without hearing. He knows her. He once loved her. And now, she is unrecognizably broken. What follows isn't about guilt. It's not pity. It's a reckoning. It's redemption. The wind bit through Daniel Cross's coat as he stepped off the curb, glancing briefly at his phone. Another meeting. Another number. Another negotiation to win. He was used to walking fast, thinking fast, living fast. But someone, stopped him cold. At the edge of the sidewalk, near a busy corner market, a woman sat hunched against the wall, holding two small girls. Their clothes were faded, patched in places. One of the girls had her face buried in the woman's coat. The other looked up, her cheeks streaked with dried tears. Daniel's heart skipped. He knew that face. Not right away. But under the grime, the unkempt hair, the worn lines of exhaustion, it was her. Maya Evans. The girl he used to write notes about but never dared send. The one who laughed with the popular crowd while he studied in the library. The one who never looked back at him, until now. He hesitated, then took a step closer. Maya? She flinched. Her eyes met his, and for a heartbeat she didn't recognize him. Then came the change. Recognition. And shame. She looked away, clutched the girls closer. Daniel? Her voice was barely a whisper. He crouched to eye level, careful not to make sudden movements. Are you okay? She gave a weak, almost bitter laugh. Do I look okay to you? Daniel glanced at the girls. One was sniffling. The other stared at him, wary but curious. He lowered his voice. Come with me. I have a car nearby. You don't have to be here. I'm not going anywhere, Maya snapped, her pride flaring through exhaustion. We're fine. Daniel didn't believe her. Not for a second. He sat beside her, ignoring the curious stares of passers-by. You're freezing. The girls are freezing. At least let me buy you dinner. Somewhere warm. She didn't answer. Just pulled the coat tighter around her daughters. Daniel waited. Watched the wind tug at their hair. Watched Maya's lip tremble. I'm not offering charity, he said gently. Just safety. One night. You can leave in the morning if you want. Silence. Then she whispered, Where's your car? Daniel stood. Offered his hand. Maya stared at it. Took it. Slowly. He carried one of the girls. Maya held the other. They didn't speak as they walked toward the black SUV waiting nearby. In the back seat, Maya sat with the girls. She kept her eyes on the window, but Daniel could see her reflection. Tense. Guarded. But already a bit less cold. The car pulled away from the corner. And Daniel felt something shift in the air. A memory long buried. A choice made without plan. A face from the past. Back in his life. And nothing would ever be the same again. The SUV slowed as it turned onto a quiet street lined with trees and well-kept brownstones. Maya hadn't said a word the entire ride. She held her daughters close as if afraid someone might take them. Daniel glanced at her through the rearview mirror, then back at the road. His townhouse came into view, tall, elegant, with warm lights glowing from within. He parked, stepped out, and opened the back door. You can wait here, Maya said softly, not moving. I don't want you sleeping on a sidewalk, Daniel replied, gently but firmly. Come inside. Just for tonight. Maya hesitated. Then the little girl in her arms stirred, murmuring in her sleep. Maya nodded. Daniel led them up the steps. The door opened to a space that smelled of cedar and citrus, clean and quiet. A framed photo of a city skyline hung above a narrow console table. Maya stood frozen in the doorway. The girls, half asleep, clung to her legs. This way, Daniel said, leading them down a hallway toward the guest wing. The guest room was warm, simple, and softly lit. A large bed with gray sheets, folded blankets, a small reading lamp. Let me know if you need anything, Daniel said, stepping back. Maya nodded once. Her eyes moved around the room, calculating its value. She looked down at her girls, and at her shoes, dirty on his hardwood floor. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Daniel saw the weight she carried but said nothing. "I'll leave you to rest," he said gently. When the door clicked shut, Maya finally let her knees give out. She sat on the edge of the bed, unmoving. The girls climbed onto the mattress without a word, curling into the blankets like they'd done it 1,000 times. Maya watched them, her hands trembling. She hadn't seen them sleep this soundly in years. No honking cars. No shivering on concrete. No sirens jolting them awake. She should have felt relief. Instead, shame crawled up her spine. She walked into the adjoining bathroom, flicked on the light. The woman in the mirror startled her. Her face was thinner than she remembered. Eyes sunken. Hair dull. Maya turned off the light. Back in the room, she sat in the corner. Legs pulled to her chest. Watching the girls breathe. She didn't deserve this. Not the bed. Not the warmth. Not Daniel's kindness. They were his sheets. His food. His pity. She buried her face into her knees. Tried to cry, but nothing came out. Tried to sleep, but her mind spun in circles. What did he want from her? Why now? Why her? Hours passed. The house was silent. At some point, Maya drifted off, not to sleep but into a blank, motionless state. The kind of stillness only exhaustion allows. And that's how she spent her first night under Daniel's roof. With her children safe, and her heart anything but. The smell of coffee drifted through the kitchen. Daniel stood by the stove, flipping pancakes like it was something he did every morning. He didn't. But he wanted today to feel normal. Behind him, the soft patter of small feet echoed. Maya entered slowly, still barefoot, her sweater hanging loosely on her frame. The girls ran ahead, their faces lit up with joy at the sight of breakfast. "Morning," Daniel said, turning around with a small smile. "Morning," Maya replied, her voice still unsure, still cautious. "Hope you're hungry." Okay, thank you." She pulled out a chair and sat down, watching her daughters climb onto the tall stools, giggling as they reached for berries and syrup. Daniel poured coffee into 2 mugs. One for him. One for her. He slid hers across the table. Maya hesitated, then took it. The warmth in her hands surprised her. They sat for a moment, eating, sipping, watching the girls. Then Daniel broke the quiet. "I wanted to ask something," he said gently. "You don't have to answer." Maya stiffened but nodded. "What happened, Maya?" Her grip tightened on the mug. She didn't look up. How did you get here? On that street." She closed her eyes. Took a breath. When she opened them, her voice was flat, not cold, just worn. "You remember Travis Knight?" Daniel nodded. The name hit like a mild headache. The football star. The golden boy. Everyone loved Travis. Except Daniel. "I dated him after high school," Maya continued, voice steady but distant. "It was all whirlwind. He made me feel seen." Her lips twisted into something close to a smile, but it never reached her eyes. "I got pregnant a few months in." Daniel didn't speak. He waited. When I told him, he froze. Said he wasn't ready. That it wasn't what he signed up for. She looked down at her daughters, who were now busy comparing how many blueberries they'd each eaten. He left 2 days later. Moved out of state. Never answered another call. Daniel clenched his jaw, but still said nothing. I stayed. Tried to figure it out. My parents, they weren't in a position to help. My mom passed a year later. Dad had health issues. Maya's fingers tapped the coffee cup lightly. I worked 2 jobs. Managed to keep up with rent for a while. Then I lost one job. Then the other. Her voice faltered for the first time. The eviction notice came when the girls were 2. Daniel swallowed. Art. We bounced around. Shelters, motels. A few nights with old friends, but people move on. Pause. And then no one had space. Or time. Or patience. Her voice broke on the last word. Daniel looked at her. And for the first time that morning she met his eyes. I didn't want you to see me like that, she whispered. You always seemed so far ahead. Like your life went the way it was supposed to. Daniel's throat tightened. It didn't, he said quietly. Maya blinked. Maybe on paper it looks that way. But, he shook his head. I just kept working. Tried to outrun everything I didn't want to feel. They sat in silence for a moment. The girls were humming now, making faces with strawberry slices. Daniel smiled faintly. You're not alone anymore, Maya. She said nothing, but her shoulders dropped. Just a little. And that said enough. The breakfast plates were nearly empty. Coffee sat cooling in half-filled mugs. But the silence between them hadn't left the room. Maya leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Daniel watched her for a moment, thoughtful. Then he spoke. You don't have to leave today. Maya's head turned, startled. We said one night, she reminded him. I said that, Daniel replied softly, because I was afraid you'd turn down any help. She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to thank him, but nothing came out. He continued. I think you could stay, just for a while. Long enough to breathe. Regroup. Maya gave a dry, guarded laugh. What then? Am I just supposed to stay in your house forever? No, he said plainly. Long enough to get back on your feet. I can help with that. She sat up straighter. Help how? Daniel chose his words carefully. I'll take care of housing, food, the girls, while you focus on studying. Or working. Whatever feels right. Maya shook her head instantly. No. That's not your responsibility. Daniel leaned forward. I'm not doing this out of guilt, Maya. Or pity. I'm doing this because you're trying. Because you care about those girls more than anything. He nodded toward the twins, now giggling and playing with leftover berries. They need stability. And you need support. Maya's voice dropped. I don't want to depend on anyone. You won't, he said. You'll rebuild. This is just the ground under your feet while you do it. She stared at her coffee. Thinking. Struggling. Then in a voice barely audible. I never finished school. Daniel didn't flinch. Then start there. Later that day he set a brochure on the table. It was clean, simple, the header read. Foundations of Small Business, Evening and Online Options. Maya didn't touch it. She glanced at it once, then went back to folding laundry. Daniel let it sit. The next morning he caught her reading it in the kitchen, half hiding it behind a cereal box. He smiled but didn't say a word. That night, after tucking the twins into bed, she found him working in the study. He looked up as she entered. I've been thinking, Maya said, holding the brochure now. Daniel closed his laptop. Yeah. This course, 3 months, right? 3 months, he confirmed. It's not too late to start? Never too late. She hesitated. I haven't been in a classroom in almost a decade. You're not walking into a classroom, he said. You're walking into a future. She let that sink in. Then whispered, I'm scared. Daniel didn't rush to fill the silence. Finally he said, you can be scared. Just don't stop moving. Maya looked down at the paper in her hands. I want my daughters to see me doing something. They already see that. She looked up. He smiled. But this time you'll see it too. 3 days later she was enrolled. Evening classes. Twice a week. The housekeeper stayed with the girls. Maya packed a notebook, borrowed a laptop Daniel had sitting in a box in the closet. Before her first class, she stood in the hallway, adjusting the straps of her bag with trembling fingers. Daniel walked by and paused. You're going to do great. I feel like I'm about to faint. Good. That means it matters. She laughed nervously. He didn't stop her. Didn't offer to drive. He just stood there letting her go on her own terms. As the door closed behind her, Daniel exhaled. And for the first time he felt it. Not just hope for her, but pride. Real deep pride. Maya returned home from her second evening class with flushed cheeks and a full mind. She didn't expect to see Daniel waiting in the kitchen, arms folded, a serious look in his eyes. She noticed it right away. Something was off. He wasn't smiling. Did something happen? She asked, slipping off her coat. Daniel hesitated. Then gestured to the table. Can we talk? Maya froze. The last time someone asked her that, it ended in abandonment. Still, she nodded and sat down. Daniel took the seat across from her. He looked straight at her. I did something, and you might not like it. Maya's stomach tightened. She said nothing. I reached out to Travis. The room dropped 10 degrees. What? I found a number. Called. Then went to see him. You what? Her voice was sharp, slicing the air. You went behind my back? I just wanted to understand, Daniel said. I needed to see what kind of man could walk away like that. That's not your decision to make. He left you. He left them. I know, she snapped. Maya stood up, pacing the room. Her hands were shaking. You think I haven't spent years carrying that? Daniel stayed seated, calm but firm. I wasn't trying to take control. I couldn't sit here watching you rebuild everything alone and not want to confront the man who made you start from nothing. Maya stared at him. You don't get to play savior, Daniel. This is my life. My pain. I know, he said softly. I just couldn't stand knowing he gets to walk away and pretend it never happened. Silence hung in the air. Maya clenched her fists. I should have been the one to do it. Then do it. Daniel slid his phone across the table. His thumb had already pulled up the number. Maya looked at it, looked at him, and picked it up. She stepped outside. The air was cool, sharp. Her fingers trembled as she held the phone to her ear. 1 ring. 2. 3. Then a voice. Hello. Travis. It's Maya. A long pause. Wow. It's been a while. She swallowed. I won't take much of your time. He sighed. If this is about money? It's not. Then what is it? It's about the girls. Another pause. The girls? The twins. More silence. You never wanted to know them, she continued. But I needed to ask. One last time. Travis's voice hardened. I moved on, Maya. That chapter's closed. They're your daughters. No. They're yours. Maya froze. She wasn't sure what she'd expected. But not that. You mean nothing to them, he added. And I don't owe you anything. A breath hitched in her throat. I just needed to hear you say it. Out loud. Now you have. And with that, the line went dead. She stood there for a moment, staring at the night sky. A breeze moved past her, cool against her skin. Her fingers were cold. But her chest was warm. Something inside her had settled. Back inside, Daniel hadn't moved. Maya placed the phone on the table. It's done. His eyes searched hers. And? He meant every word. Daniel stood. Moved closer. I'm sorry. Don't be, she said quietly. I thought it would destroy me to hear it. But it didn't. Her voice steadied. I feel free. Daniel didn't speak. He just stood there breathing with her. And for the first time, Maya didn't feel like the past owned her anymore. Maya sat at the dining table, her brows furrowed, pen tapping against a workbook. Across from her, Hazel was drawing suns and stick figures on scrap paper. Harper sat beside her, pretending to grade Maya's homework with a pink marker. You missed a comma here, Harper said, very serious. Maya smiled without looking up. She was starting to enjoy the small chaos. Classes were hard, harder than she expected. But each page completed felt like a tiny victory. Each quiz passed, a small breath of confidence. And slowly something inside her was shifting. Not just surviving. Not just enduring. But learning how to show up again. For herself. One Friday afternoon, Daniel returned home earlier than usual. He found Maya on the back porch, notebook in lap, coffee gone cold beside her. He stood for a moment watching. Not the exhaustion in her posture, but the quiet focus in her eyes. I have something to ask, he said, stepping closer. Maya looked up, blinking. Don't worry, it's not about the plumbing again, he added with a grin. She laughed softly. Good. I thought you were going to hand me a wrench. Daniel sat on the bench beside her. I've been thinking, he said. I have a position open at the firm. Project assistant. Entry level. Just a few days a week. Maya's smile faded slightly. Her eyes narrowed. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you'd be great at it. She looked away. I'm not sure I'm ready. Daniel didn't argue. He just nodded. I figured you might say that. Maya's fingers tightened around her pen. I haven't even finished the course. You're halfway through. And you've already applied more than most new hires. I don't know anything about real business. Daniel smiled gently. Neither did I when I started. That's what the assistant part is for. Maya exhaled. It wasn't just about the job. It was about being seen as someone capable. It scared her. But it also stirred something else. Oh, would I have to go to meetings? Like, with actual people? Yes, he said with mock horror. Humans? They speak. Occasionally eat snacks. She laughed again, this time a bit freer. I'll think about it. I'll send you the offer. No pressure. That night she read the email 3 times. The position was part-time. Flexible hours. Nothing was being handed to her. Just offered. A door cracked open. She stood in the hallway holding her phone for a long time. Then finally she typed 2 words. I'm in. The next morning, Daniel greeted her at the kitchen table with 2 coffees and a fresh folder. First day's Monday. I'll have someone walk you through everything. Maya took the folder. Her hands trembled slightly. But her chin lifted. Okay. You're gonna be great. Remind me of that when I mess up my first spreadsheet. He raised his cup. To rebuilding, he said. She clinked hers against it. To believing. Friday started like any other. Maya woke early, helped the girls get dressed, packed her laptop, and left for her morning study session. Daniel had meetings downtown, which meant the house was unusually quiet. By noon, Maya was back home, typing away at the kitchen table. Then her phone buzzed. No contact name. Just a number. And a message. Thought you should see this. Know who you're trusting. Below it was a photo. Grainy. Zoomed in. But unmistakable. Daniel. Sitting at a cafe. Across from a woman. Younger. Stylish. Smiling. His head was tilted slightly as if laughing. No context. No explanation. Just that image. Maya's stomach flipped. She stared at it, hands frozen. All the memories, all the betrayal she had buried, surged back without warning. When Daniel came home that evening, he found Maya in the living room, sitting stiffly. Her hands were in her lap, phone screen face down. He paused in the doorway. Hey, he said. She didn't answer. He frowned. Then noticed her posture. Rigid. Cold. Maya? She looked up. Eyes sharp. Did you have a good lunch today? Daniel blinked. What? You were downtown, right? Yeah. Meetings. She turned the phone over, slid it across the table. Daniel picked it up, looked at the screen. His eyes narrowed. Then he sighed. That's Claire Monroe. She's consulting on the riverfront project. We had a meeting. Maya said nothing. Daniel sat down. You think I'm hiding something? I don't know, she said, her voice low. But someone clearly wants me to think you are. Daniel set the phone down. You believe them? I believe the photo, she replied. She paused. Then her voice softened, almost ashamed. I know I don't have any right to question your personal life. Really, I don't. Her fingers toyed with the edge of her sweater. It's just, if you had someone, a partner, a wife, I'd never want to cross that line. Or make things awkward for you. For anyone. She looked down. I didn't want to believe what I saw. But it scared me. Daniel stayed quiet for a moment. Then stood. Walked out. Maya's pulse quickened. 10 minutes later he returned. With a folder. Dropped it on the coffee table. She looked at him. He opened it. Inside, email printouts, meeting notes, the consulting agreement with Claire Monroe's name and signature. Here, he said. Full transparency. Maya flipped through. The date on the contract matched today. There was nothing inappropriate. Nothing hidden. She let out a shaky breath. Daniel sat again, quieter now. I didn't want to show you all this. Because I didn't think I had to. Maya looked down. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. I just want to know where this came from. He picked up her phone again. Opened the message. Cross-checked the number. Then he froze. Of course. What? Daniel leaned back. That number belongs to Evan. A former employee. I let him go 3 months ago for leaking documents. He's been bitter ever since. Maya stared at him. Daniel met her eyes. I'll block it. You won't hear from him again. She nodded slowly. Still reeling. Still ashamed. I guess I'm still learning how to trust, she said. That's okay, Daniel replied. I'm still learning how to be trusted. They sat quietly. Not awkward, just honest. Then Maya asked softly, did she laugh at your terrible jokes? Daniel grinned. Worse. She laughed politely. Maya rolled her eyes. But this time she smiled. The next morning the house smelled like cinnamon and apology. Maya stood by the stove flipping pancakes, eyes darting occasionally toward the doorway. When Daniel walked in she looked up. I made breakfast, she said quickly. Hope that's okay. He smiled. I like cinnamon guilt. Maya exhaled a small laugh. Then her face turned serious. I'm sorry. Daniel walked over, took the spatula from her hand. I know. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. You were scared, he said gently. You're allowed to be scared. She met his eyes. And you didn't deserve that. He set the spatula down. Neither of them moved for a moment. Then Hazel and Harper burst in, arguing about syrup. The spell broke. But something lingered in the air, unspoken but felt. That afternoon, Daniel appeared with a backpack and 2 envelopes. Weekend trip, he announced. The girls squealed. Where? Maya asked, surprised. Lake house. Just 2 days. I used to go there with my dad. Maya hesitated. I don't want to intrude. You're not. He handed her the second envelope. Inside were 4 tickets. 2 adult. 2 child. I figured we all need a little air. The lake was quiet, wrapped in late autumn gold. Daniel drove. The girls sang off-key in the back seat. Maya sat up front, watching the trees blur past. She felt strange. Not uncomfortable. But not fully settled either. Like standing on the edge of something warm, afraid to step in. That night, they roasted marshmallows under a sky full of stars. Daniel helped the girls build a tiny fort out of pillows and blankets in the cabin living room. Hazel grabbed his hand. Can you be our daddy just for this trip? Daniel blinked. Then nodded slowly. If that's okay with your mom. Maya smiled softly, heart thudding. Only if you agree to bedtime stories. He chuckled. Deal. Later, after the girls were asleep, Maya stepped outside with a blanket around her shoulders. Daniel was on the porch swing, nursing a mug of tea. She joined him in silence. I didn't expect this, she said. This? She gestured vaguely, the lake, the stars, the quiet. All of it. He took a slow sip. I didn't either. Silence. Then. They're happy, Maya whispered. He looked at her. So are you. She smiled faintly. I'm trying. He turned toward her. Can I say something selfish? She nodded. I like seeing you here. Maya didn't reply, because the feeling was mutual, and that terrified her. She looked down. I'm scared, she said. Daniel waited. Scared that if I let myself feel something, I'll lose it. He didn't rush, didn't try to fix it. He just said, then feel it slowly. Inside the cabin, the girls snored softly under a shared quilt. Outside, 2 grown-ups sat close, saying nothing more, but knowing everything had shifted. The city below shimmered in gold, blue, and glass. It was the same rooftop. The one where Maya once stood shivering, unsure, clutching her daughters and her pride. Now months later she stood beside Daniel. No longer trembling. Not because life was suddenly easy, but because she wasn't carrying it alone anymore. He brought 2 mugs, 1 cocoa, 1 coffee. She smiled. You always remember who takes which. He looked out at the skyline. It's not hard to remember the people who matter. They stood in silence for a while, sipping, breathing in the evening. Then Daniel reached into his coat. Pulled out a small velvet box. Maya froze. He didn't kneel. Didn't rehearse a grand speech. He just held it up. Plain. Quiet. Steady. I don't need to fix you, he said. I just want to stand beside you. And love what you become. Maya blinked quickly. Her breath caught somewhere between her chest and her throat. Then softly. Why me? Daniel tilted his head. You could have someone better, smarter, less damaged. She hesitated. I'm a woman with children. That complicates things. Daniel interrupted, his voice calm but sure. Those girls asked me to be their dad that weekend at the cabin. I didn't hesitate then. And I'm not hesitating now. She looked at him. Heart pounding. He stepped closer. Love doesn't ask who deserves what. It just shows up. I've loved you since high school, Maya. All these years, no one ever reached the place you did. I think that's enough proof of how real this is. Maya's eyes filled. Her fingers reached, trembling, for the box. She opened it. A simple ring. A quiet promise. I didn't think I'd ever be brave enough to say yes, she whispered. You don't have to be brave, he replied. You just have to mean it. She nodded. Then softly through the tears. Yes. The wedding was small. No dresses worth a mortgage. No stage lights. Just warmth. A garden. Close friends. Hazel tripped over her flower basket. Harper fixed her sister's braid with exaggerated care. Daniel wore a modest suit. Maya wore her mother's pendant. The vows were spoken under string lights and quiet smiles. No orchestra. Just laughter, whispers, and two daughters giggling behind a row of chairs. When Maya looked at Daniel, she didn't see rescue. She saw home. The morning light was soft, filtering through gauzy curtains. Maya sat on the bathroom floor, a white stick in her hand. 2 pink lines. Her fingers trembled. Not from fear, not entirely, but from the weight of surprise. And a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She told Daniel that evening in the kitchen, over leftover pasta and candlelight. He blinked. Then smiled. Then blinked again. Wait, seriously? Maya nodded. Tears in her eyes. Daniel put down his fork. Got up. Pulled her into his arms without a word. Then whispered, Thank you. When Hazel and Harper found out, they screamed so loud the neighbors probably heard. Is it a boy? Can we name him Marshmallow? Will he sleep in our room? Maya laughed until her stomach hurt. At her 20-week scan, the doctor leaned in. Everything looks good. But your blood pressure is slightly elevated. Just a caution, rest more. Take it slow. Daniel took the words as gospel. He picked up every grocery. Cooked every meal. Braided the girl's hair, badly. Even learned how to fold baby onesies by watching YouTube. Maya protested at first. You're doing too much. Daniel grinned. Get used to it. One night, rain danced gently on the windows. The world outside hushed by spring mist. Maya woke with a sharp jolt of pressure in her lower back. She sat up, paused, then whispered, Daniel? He was at her side in seconds. No panic. Just calm. They made it to the hospital in time. And hours later, when the clock passed 2 a.m., the doctor held up a squirming baby boy. Strong lungs. Tiny fists. A perfect shade of red. Daniel kissed Maya's forehead. You did it. She looked down at the tiny human on her chest. No, she whispered. We did. Hazel and Harper met their baby brother the next day. They wore matching t-shirts that read, Big Sister X2. Harper stared at him for a long time. He smells like cookies, she declared. Hazel nodded solemnly. Let's keep him. And just like that, their story, the one that began on a rainy street corner, found its second chapter. Not perfect, but real. Full of cracked laughter, dirty diapers, sleepy kisses, and morning pancakes. A home. A family. A life rewritten, not erased. Under golden morning light. Maya stands quietly watching Daniel play with the girls in the backyard. In her arms, their baby boy stirs, warm, safe, and loved. This home wasn't built with bricks. It was built with trust, with hurt, with forgiveness, and with love strong enough to start over. Do you believe in second chances? If this story touched you, leave a comment below. Tap the heart if you believe family isn't just about blood, but about choosing each other. Hit subscribe to follow more inspiring, healing stories. And turn on the bell because the next story might just be your beginning.